Yeah, let's go.
Ragnarok!
Get some Led Zeppelin going.
Oh, yeah. That was in the movie, you know. I am very surprised that they got the rights to that song in the movie.
Right.
Well,
They paid for that.
They got the rights, they paid for it, and they used it.
Well, I mean, even if people were willing to...
They doubled it up.
Yeah, like,
Yep.
I just mean Led Zeppelin has a history of not letting people put their music in their movies.
But they love Vikings.
Yeah, that's true.
Fantasy, heroes.
High fantasy, low
Let's
fantasy,
go.
in the middle.
All right.
So this is the Spark of Madness podcast. We are finished with our
the whole show.
spook.
We're done, guys. That's it. We're done.
I'm out of here.
Yeah. Woo. We're free. We're free.
Guys,
We got a
come
show.
back.
Free.
It's just me by myself.
On Saturday morning.
It's like that.
Chocolate milk.
Wild and crazy.
It's like that Family Guy joke with Kiss and the two Gene Simmons
yeah.
and the other ones
Now's our
walk off.
chance.
Now's our chance, and it's like, "Party boy." It's just me by myself.
That's hilarious.
So we're done with Halloween movies. We are back to the old superhero.
Back to the
grind.
superhero grind. Yeah.
We're at that time again. We've got 4 straight weeks of superhero movies coming up.
What?
Oh,
What's next week?
Next week we're next week we're doing the best
That's right.
Batman.
That's right.
You were asking me earlier what it was next week, Ben, and I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't-
Next week, then Justice League, and then a surprise superhero movie at the end of the month.
Isn't that representative
Ooh,
of
I'm
the
surprised
entire
too.
past 10 years?
It's oh hi Mark. So but today we're doing Thor.
Why?
We're doing Thor, the new one, Thor Ragnarok, which is the 3rd movie in the Thor series, but his like 5th, 6th.
As far as I'm
movie?
concerned, it's the first Thor movie.
Yeah, this is basically a reboot almost of the Thor character. But
Yeah.
so just to recap Thor's presence in the Marvel world, we had Thor 1, which is like a fish out of water. I'm a Viking alien guy with Kenneth Branagh dialogue who falls to Earth and has to save the world and gets accustomed to Earth
And he has
stuff.
lessons, and moral lessons of arrogance.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's the Marvel thing. Everybody's arrogant and then they're
Well, I
humble.
think there was so the first one had a really good character arc. I actually enjoyed the first one.
Yeah.
I thought it was good.
You're right. Yeah, he did.
They had a real complete cognitive story to it.
Yep. And then
With Loki too.
no, Loki was in the first one, was
Yeah,
he?
he was.
Was he?
I don't think he was. He was the
I
second.
don't remember that.
No.
That was the dark
Loki was in the first one. I bet my bottom dollar.
bottom
Judges?
dollar. Okay.
Because they
We don't
realized
have
he's not
judges.
he was a frost giant. He was a frost giant that they took, Loki. You don't remember that?
That's the second one. That's the whole plot of the second one.
No, that's the first one. Second one's about like the dark world.
Right, where we find out he's a fraud.
No, I
Whatever.
guarantee you one.
Whatever. The second one's terrible. Where this is
whoever's
going.
watching,
Yeah,
Bobby,
Bobby or
somebody's
watching.
watching. Please
Please
comment
correct.
and
Please
confirm.
prove me right.
Clearly, we're not the fanboys and know the exact.
I am on this. I'm right.
Okay. Well, either way. So we get, and then so basically the first movie's great. Natalie Portman disappears forever.
For the better.
After that, then we get a forgettable second movie. Thor does
things.
He does some things in the. He has a good presence in Avengers. He has like a weird, just kind of nothing burger presence in Age of Ultron, right? Like they do the scene where they're trying to lift the hammer, which is pretty good. But
yeah.
he even disappears for half the movie
Doesn't
to
he-
like go
doesn't
to
he
a
have like a revelation in Age of Ultron. Like a
yeah.
vision?
He goes into like that hot tub
Yeah, hot tub
mysticism thing where he has a vision that you think is going to play out somehow, but that never happens in any movie.
Nothing
Okay,
is
great.
happening.
And then
Well,
that was our last.
Our division was about this movie about Ragnarok.
But there's nothing. It was like a.
I don't remember.
It was like a orgy or something, violent orgy thing. I don't remember.
Maybe it was about the Matrix.
I was about to go there.
It was about the
You beat me to
demise
it.
of the Marvel formula. So
Back the formula.
before we get into the good, the bad, and the ugly of our
That one's for you, Peter.
of Thor Ragnarok,
Wait, let me do it. I forgot to change it to normal.
Yeah, the bad.
The ugly.
There was a vowel in there.
What? How would you guys? How would you guys kind of sum up the plot of the movie? Like in
every Marvel movie ever.
No,
Done.
No, just Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
No, I would sum it up as fun.
just fun.
It's fun.
Popcorn flick.
It was sort of like
Fun.
Thor loses his hammer, gets kidnapped, has to be a gladiator, escapes, saves Asgard. That's the whole movie, right?
Man creates God.
God creates man.
God creates man. Man creates dinosaur.
Is this about the
Dinosaur-
environment?
Dinosaur creates. Man destroy God.
Something,
Dinosaurs
something,
eat man,
women inherits
and
the
women
earth.
inherit-
Moving on.
All right.
All right.
Joke is over. Cue the
We're done. Yeah, so the three of us went and actually saw this together. That was
It was so dreamy sitting next
I
to.
held-
That
I
was-
in the middle.
that was-
I was a Ben sandwich.
it was a Ben sandwich.
It was, and I was. So the seats, the seats. You know how seats are in movie theaters? They're reclining seats, but sometimes they're double up, so there's more space in between one person than the other person because they're
Right,
they're
yeah.
twos. Mine was closer to Matt.
That's-
How do you feel about that, Aaron?
No one's happier about it than me.
So let's just jump right in with the good, because I think the best place to start is actually about our viewing experience of Ben like hysterically laughing.
It was that one part.
Throughout the whole. No, it wasn't. It was like throughout the whole movie.
I enjoyed
You
it.
were just
I enjoyed this
cackling while everyone else was just kind of like, and you're like, "Ah!"
Well, it was the one character that made me laugh hilarious. This is part of the good, I guess.
Yeah, we're
so-
into the good.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is the good. Probably the best part about this whole movie for me was let me go to the character's name. There's some revelations about this character. So spoilers for people who haven't seen the movie
I
yet.
put a thing in the Facebook.
So there's a character named Korg. He's actually based on a real Marvel character. He's kind of like a Ben Grimm kind of rock monster kind of looking character. He's in this gladiator pit, and when we first see him, like he looks really menacing. Then Thor's talking to him, and he has this very prevalent New Zealand accent,
like really soft spoken.
really hilarious,
Yeah.
really dry and hilarious. And every time he was on screen, he made me crack up for the most part.
Yeah.
The best part was when he was like, piss off, ghost, and he comes around and kicks it. That was the Aaron's part too. I think it was too.
Yeah,
But
that was
that part
funny.
made me laugh for like 2 scenes later because that was so funny. Actually, that's the only thing that makes this rewatchable is watching that.
Watching
part.
him.
But I really cracked up. So the revelation is the voice of that guy, which I thought, oh, this is like Fly the Conchords. It reminded me of Brent.
Yeah, I thought it was that guy the whole
too, for the
time.
But it wasn't. It was the director of Thor Ragnarok, who's from New Zealand. Taika Waititi is his name, and he's actually pretty funny. And I want to go see his other movies because I guess his other movies are pretty funny.
Yeah,
And so he's known for funny
he
stuff.
clearly had the comedy like there was that one scene at the very end of the movie after all of this epic action, and his name's Korg. Is that his name?
Korg, yes.
Korg. He's holding that like slug
keyboard.
thing
Yeah.
under his arm, and they're like, "Oh, is Meek okay?" And he just goes, "Oh, Meek's dead. I accidentally stepped on him and I've just been carrying him around all day." Like the whole movie, like for the arc, I feel real bad about it. And then he looks down at it, like kind of moves. He goes, "Oh, he's alive. Oh, he's okay." And that was it.
Okay, I just look at. Can I make one point real quick, Aaron? Real quick. before
Yeah, you may. Whatever.
The director. Okay, so we talked about Flight of the Conchords, right? I just looked at his IMDb. It looks like he's written 2 episodes of Flight of the Conchords. So
There
he's
you go.
involved in that series.
There you go.
He might have directed some too. So
Well, it's like all New Zealanders; they have to
Oh, yeah,
participate
I think
somehow.
New Zealanders are funny.
I think it's
They're all
like
very dry.
it's sort of like how some countries you have to serve in the military for a certain amount
and he
of time.
directed 4 episodes of Flight of the Conchords too. So he wrote 2. Yeah, you're right. That's the Israelis equivalent to.
You gotta appear, participate in Flight of the
So he
Conchords.
has the Flight of the Conchords connection, which is great. And
Aaron,
but you know what? Okay, so not only because he delivered the lines similar to Brent, I think he's written it and directed it, so I think that's where it's like some similarities came from. That's why we thought it was Brent.
Yeah.
So it was
possibly.
very much like Brent from Flight of the Conchords prison.
But as a rock monster.
As a rock monster, but so funny. Piss off, Ghost.
And also, yeah. Aaron, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to mention that.
Oh, yeah, the joke you mentioned of his with the dead thing not being dead. Have you seen a movie called Balls of Fury?
Yes.
Yes.
Remember the panda?
Barely.
I haven't seen that movie forever.
Well, they make this big to-do about this panda in captivity at Christopher Walken's like place, and when the place is blowing up, one of the concubines, the male concubines, runs past the panda. He's like, "I'm gonna save the panda." Then he runs back. The panda's dead. It seemed like one of those editing room jokes, but I lost it.
Yeah. I do think the humor was well written in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think obviously it's, I mean, that's what everybody's talking about. Okay. Like, usually I don't go out, especially ones where we've done it less and less, but ones where we watch the movie and then almost immediately do the review, our podcast. I don't like look into the reviews, but this time I did, just because I think all three of us, but I know myself, had a very strong opinion about this I wanted to see. But I feel like the one thing that's come out of this is that this is the funniest of the Marvel movies. And it came through.
Well, no, it's not. It's not the funniest. It's one of the funniest. Maybe the top two.
I agree with you. Yeah, it's up there.
I think the funniest is The Last Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, we'll get to more Guardians stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's Hulk 2003. Come on now.
That is pretty funny.
That was a...
It's huge.
That was an art experiment, actually.
King Kong size. The funny part about Hulk 2003 was Gary Busey's part.
I forgot he was in that.
Yeah, Gary Busey.
I love Gary Busey.
It's Nick Nolte. We get them confused. They're the same person, right?
Gary Nolte.
You bamboozled me.
Yeah. But but Nick Nolte is in Predator too. So.
No, he's not. See, don't try to slip that one in on me.
Your minds, boys.
That should be like a big. That should be a video. It's like, is it Nick Nolte or Gary Busey?
There is.
Dun, 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 dun. It's like a trivia show.
You don't know the difference. You know, like
welcome back to Nolte or Busey.
Welcome. You've got the long like. Family Feud microphone that's like 7
All right,
inches.
Contestants, is this Busey or Nolte?
Is it Nolte? Ah, Busey.
You know, we can make a whole internet app about that. Like,
Probably
that could be a whole game.
Yeah.
Is he dead or?
It's sort of like is it Katy Perry, Emily Blunt, Zooey Deschanel? Like there's like
none of
four
them
people.
look the same.
Yeah. That's true.
You're not the only person I've heard say that. I don't see where it's coming from. Do you have face blindness?
Who are you? What? Ben?
It's only Nick Nolte and Gary Busey.
So, on top of to piggyback on just talking about how fun, because I think it was legitimately funny, Thor Ragnarok.
It was.
Yes.
I feel like two characters more than others, aside from core, like, and these random one-off characters like Jeff Goldblum's assistant.
Yeah.
She was pretty funny.
I didn't think so. I had a bad reaction to
it. They basically used all these ancillary characters for comedic effect only.
You're right.
Right.
But this is off now, but keep to your point, but I want to make a little addition to that character that woman who's the sidekick to the woman who is
Jeff Goldblum's sidekick that wants to kill everybody.
She's the grandmother's voice in Moana.
Oh, okay.
I found that out. Anyway, so
there you go.
Behind the scenes.
But will say, I thought Chris Hemsworth was.
Funnier
we can get into like the character, but from a performance and from the dialogue and how he pulled everything off, I was impressed with how funny he was.
He's very charming.
He's so dreamy.
He is dreamy.
And I guess
he's all arms.
Our friend Corey told me that he heard that this was all very like there was a lot of improvised nature to it, which makes me even more kind of like, wow, some of this might have been improvised. That's cool that he pulled that off.
It's improvised, but also you had another person in Mark Ruffalo who's probably helped with it. I watched an interview with them. So they were interviewing some guys in Australia where Chris Hemsworth is from, and he still lives there. And so him and Mark Ruffalo were going around making these interviews in Australia. And they talked to these two guys who Chris Hemsworth probably knows, but it was a hilarious interview. They really didn't talk about the movie, but it was just really funny.
Perfect.
And you can kind of see the chemistry and like the working off of each other in that moment. So here's the deal about improvisation. And I've talked to you about this too, Aaron. I think improvisation is great. But I also think in comedy, you should have something really well written.
There should be a skeleton.
There should be a skeleton, but something really strong written. To go off the, I feel this movie had something really strong written with this director, where it wasn't like a loose improvisation.
Yeah, you improvisers out there, don't try to be Don Rickles out the gate.
Well, but even Don Rickles can't be Don Rickles in a movie. Like I think that's the suffering of some comedies today, and I think they had something really well written down to work from to improvise. And so I'm all about improvising, not for the sake of like we're going to create the whole movie that way.
Yeah.
You know.
I think one of my.
You know what I'm saying? You see my point though? Like,
yeah. No. It's the it's the Curb Your Enthusiasm model. Like he spends months, if not years, planning out the structure of the season and where he wants to go. Like this scene needs to lead here. How we get there is kind of up for interpretation.
But at the same time, you can write really good jokes.
Yeah.
You can write really good
and
jokes.
Clearly they wrote good jokes
they did,
too. It wasn't just.
But at the same time, there are some gems that you can find through improvisation.
Yeah.
But if you help, especially in comedic movies, so many comedic movies these days is my biggest gripe. Sorry, this has something to do with the podcast and also like movies in general, where I think movies have gone bad. Is that they depend on so much improv to carry the movie. A lot of Will Ferrell movies are that way. A lot of like the Ghostbusters movies, I'm sure were that way. The newest Ghostbuster movie, but it fell flat. You know what I mean? You have to have some really good written jokes in there to carry it. Now, okay, so we saw Baby Driver. What's the director's name again on Baby Driver?
Edgar Wright.
Edgar Wright. So this is a whole. Actually, our friend of the podcast, Jake. How do you pronounce it? Jake Yoon. He's a German.
He's got the umlaut.
He is. Jake Yoon. He gets a little.
It's like a Twitter verified. You get the.
He introduced me to a video about comedy in movies, and he talked about Edgar Wright movies versus comedies today. And it was a really good video about comedy where it talks about Edgar Wright movies, comedies versus that. And so the difference is, you listen to a comedy today, you know, and you hear like the jokes, all right? You hear them improvising and stuff like that, and you're like, well, that's funny, but I don't need a visual to laugh at it. You know what I mean? I don't need anything visual to laugh at it.
It's funny in itself, not within like playing into the overall story necessarily.
But also cinematography. Also like
well, yeah, there's a lot of other elements.
And I think
yeah.
part of the funny thing about Thor Ragnarok, this big rock character has this little voice.
Yeah, big character, little voice.
But that's what made it funny. I mean, like you have to think about things like that, you know?
Yeah.
And the Hulk, you know, and his regalia and stuff. Physical character of the Hulk saying these things. Yeah, I think if you can intermix comedy within, you can make something really funny in a movie through editing and through the way you develop it. But I think that's the biggest problem with you had the look of like, Ben, let's move on. We'll move on. But I have more thought out. Well, maybe we can have a session. Maybe we can have a whole podcast about talking about that.
About comedy.
I'm all about.
Yeah.
I can tell that you're passionate.
I'm passionate.
You're very passionate.
Fuck.
So
what was good about Thor?
Yeah, Aaron, what good do you have?
My only
moves on.
I don't want to seem like I'm a really harsh critic of this movie, but I felt like the only thing it had going for it was the humor.
Yeah.
Other than
I
that,
actually
I really
tend to
didn't
agree
care.
with you.
I agree with you too.
Although the only thing I would push back is I thought some of the, not even the action set pieces where they showed the whole scene, but they had some pretty good visuals and cinematography
They did.
too.
Okay, all right.
But go ahead, finish your thought though.
I mean, as far as cinematography goes, it's standard Marvel fare. I mean, it's flat with not a lot of color, except in a few places.
Well, the junkyard place.
I thought they did a good job with like peppering in the color, but it really was just that scene. Although they did add like this more Technicolor rainbow thing to the Thor, to Asgard. That I don't know if that was there.
For their continuity on color grading in other movies, it just looks flat, and I don't like it.
I got to say this to you, and you're the biggest defender of the last Batman vs Superman movie. At least there's color. But there's no color in those movies at all.
At least there was a gamma.
Fucking you. So can I mention something?
Yeah.
I thought, okay, so here's the more good about this thing.
Okay.
And you maybe agree with it or not. I'm sorry that I'm very talkative right now. But I feel
No.
for I feel
Go.
for
Go.
podcast
Go.
you had to be talkative.
Keep going. Keep going.
You're on a roll, kid.
All right, shut up. No.
Get done.
So I thought everything not in Asgard was the more interesting part about
100%.
And even though there's some cool visual, like Lord of the Rings kind of shit in Asgard, I was more interested in like that world.
The most interesting thing about the Asgard stuff, so Asgard was basically relegated to on the bridge, which is away from the city,
Which is on
or
Rainbow Road.
or like Rainbow Road, basically, or the like fake play they did with Matt Damon and Chris Hemsworth's brother, like, which was also like very small scale, and then they would do these like catacombs wandering shit. But you're right, like that. None of that we get Asgard. I would argue has never been interesting, and so like they
I think
the Asgard stuff. Well, the most interesting part about the first movie is when he came to Earth. Like the Asgard stuff was like just to set the stage for the character.
I like the mythology, the Bifrost and shit like that.
Sure,
I like
they
that.
set it up, but
Yeah, and
I mean,
just Albert's character.
overall, I agree with you. The most interesting part was when they got away from Asgard and we're in this Jeff Goldblum world.
Yeah, that was great, and I want to watch whole movies about that. I love that.
Jeff Goldblum.
I watched an interview of him, and it was the
Jeff Goldblum.
ever.
So
I love that man.
here's my pitch for how to fix Marvel.
Put Jeff Goldblum
Because they clearly have an issue. We'll get to Hela. We'll get to Kate Blanchett.
I thought she was good.
We'll get to her. But here's my argument. Just have Jeff Goldblum be the villain in every movie.
Yeah.
That his character as a villain is somebody who reincarnates with different powers across universes, across planets, and just is like, it's the same guy playing different characters in every movie.
You may as well.
I would be 100% on board with Jeff Goldblum in that role. Because I loved him in this, and he was like, he was a DJ.
He was.
He had a whole scene where he was a DJ.
Yeah, and he was a good. He was very good. And here's the problem. He was underused. I think it was very underused.
I lost my champion. Can one of you guys find him, please?
Who didn't like?
He was a very benevolent ruler.
Yeah. I don't know if I told you this, Aaron. I don't remember who I told this to, but I thought, okay, so Sam Neill makes an appearance in this movie too.
Yeah, you did say.
Very small.
He played fake Odin.
He played fake Odin in the play. So was Matt Damon too. He played
fake Loki.
Yeah, in the little play they did. Yeah, that was.
And like it was funny because we make a little antidote where we were watching the previews to movies, and this movie I want to review for our pod, which was downsizing, which is a concept I thought about years ago. I was like, "Man, come on, do you want to see this movie?" He's like, "Nah." I was like, "Why, Matt?" Like in the middle of the movie,
That's right.
I don't really care for Matt Damon. Like he made that.
Don't worry,
very
Matt
clear
Damon
with his
doesn't care for
face
Matt
and everything.
Damon.
If you know Matt, he has this very distinct.
Yeah,
like,
it's very
even
obvious.
though he beat me in poker, I can still read his poker face.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with my skill. It's just everything to do with like.
And the best part was, I think I looked,
regrettable. I'm gonna lose because of.
I think I looked at you during the movie when Matt Damon appeared. And like you're like.
This movie went from an 8 to a 7.
That was a fun experience. I feel like this movie's a fun experience that we went to, and Mother was a fun experience too.
Yeah.
Ultimately, yes.
Yeah.
But where was I going with this?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Okay.
Sam Neill. I don't know.
Okay, so Sam Neill. That's what. So I was telling Aaron about this. I thought, well, it was a throwaway for Sam Neill. I thought, wouldn't it be funny, like for the audience and everything, that there was two
you're
DJs,
right.
and one of them was Jeff Goldblum, and one of them Sam Neill, and they can like combat each other.
It would have been funnier to like pull in the Jurassic Park connection.
That would have been brilliant.
That would have been really good.
So funny.
Or like, make him the dinosaur, like some dinosaur wrangler or something.
They bantered with each other. Like, but if it was that kind of, they bantered with each other. Man, people.
The other DJ would have had to have been Muldoon.
That's true.
Yeah. And then Goldblum gets a good set on, and then Muldoon's like, "Clever girl."
Or
clever girl.
Or what's her name? What's the actress name from Jurassic Park?
Laura Dern.
Laura Dern. Was like their sidekick, you know.
Yeah.
Just for us.
So Jeff Goldblum's character in this
Stole the
movie was,
show.
he was,
No, no.
but that's just because he's such a unique. He brings this unique personality
He
to
did-
everything he does.
Quark
That
stole the show. Really.
Yeah.
But Jeff Goldblum, like as a villain, stole the show.
if you could even call him a villain, I don't even know.
he's
He was
just
just. I loved every scene. I never rooted against him. Like,
All right.
was I
He's
supposed
just doing
to?
his thing.
I loved every second he was in.
Me too.
Um,
Okay, so I want to make a reference. One of my favorite
Mm-hmm.
scenes when they introduced Jeff Goldblum's character, they harken back to Willy Wonka. So he's on this little ride.
Yeah, the
This
like
is- and Chris
Disneyland
Yeah, and Chris
Wonderful
Hemsworth
World
was
ride.
Funny in this.
Chris
He
Hemsworth
screamed
did a
at the
great
end,
job.
"Ah!" Like, it was just really funny. But they had the Willy Wonka music going, and then they make. I feel that they made a reference to the going into the tunnel in Willy Wonka.
Oh, yeah.
At one point.
Yeah,
And like he comes out, and it was almost it was exactly the same. Like it stopped, and he was in the chair, and he was in front of everybody, and he was
Yeah.
screaming. That was hilarious.
yeah, it was a good reference.
Sorry.
The Willy Wonka, the Thor, when Thor was trying to convince Hulk, the two versions of Hulk. This was one of my favorite parts. Was when he had a conversation with Hulk, Green Big Hulk, who it's very obvious, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Like, oh, they're totally different personalities at this point.
Yeah.
Like Hulk is his own person versus Bruce Banner, which
Yeah,
is
there was
Mark
that
Ruffalo.
line.
Yeah,
No
very
banner.
Very close to the comic.
That was a little bit of a new. That was a little bit of a new wrinkle at this point, like
But
that we
it's
hadn't
very true
seen
to
in
the
previous
comics
movies.
where he's aware of Banner and he wants to subdue him.
Right. But I loved that. This was one of the better two comedic effect moments. Was that Thor was playing into, I prefer you because you like to get into fights, Big Hulk, and then he was talking to Bruce Banner like, actually, I prefer you to the big guy because you actually have other things that could do this. Like that was a good to show that he was playing to both of them.
Yeah.
It shows that he's a manipulator.
And, right.
Well, this is the best version of Thor. You know, I think he's so funny.
Yeah, I almost want to skip straight to bad after you say that because
There's some consequences.
before we get there, what any other? I've got a couple stray things, but we can get to them. Like the orgy plane. I thought the fact that there was an orgy plane in a Marvel movie, like that's progress. That's like something very different.
And Thor's like, don't touch anything.
Don't touch it.
I thought Hela's
And the fireworks because of it was an orgy. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Hela's look was really cool.
Hela's costume was great, which I'm sure was just based off of the comic. It had to have been.
It is.
Yeah.
So here's something about Hela. Let's talk about this, and then we can move on to the bad. I was reading a little bit about Thanos. I don't think Hela's dead.
No, me neither.
Didn't really
Obviously
see that.
not. Yeah.
Thanos falls in love with death. And I don't know. I have to look more into it. I don't know if death is Hela. So I'm thinking Hela is death in this thing. And Thanos,
She's like the Grim Reaper, or like she represents death, or
like the goddess of death. Like,
Okay.
I think he falls in love with death, like a character who's death, who's death.
Okay.
And it's a woman, and I think it's going to be her because she's the goddess of death, right? And
so is this a situation now that she is technically dead that people can't die?
just Hela. You know what? There's a movie about that. A good old black and white movie back in the 30s and 40s called On Borrowed Time, which I think we should review. It's based on a play. But this old man captures death into a tree, and people can't die.
This is yet another Family Guy reference
it's a
for
real quandary.
anybody.
We're gonna watch it someday. But
yeah, so
she's the goddess of death. But
So you think that'll play through, or
I think she's gonna come back.
Okay, yeah, she'll come back.
Because we didn't really see her physically die. Now here's another thing about Asgard before we leave.
Yeah, go.
3 minutes in here. Do you think Kyrie Irving would love to be on Asgard?
Who? What?
Kyrie Irving is a basketball player.
That's a deep.
Oh.
That's a deep cut for for basketball
why
fans.
are we laughing about that, Matt? Why are we laughing?
Because Kyrie Irving thinks the world is flat
And Asgard is flat.
and Asgard.
Oh.
Although he's backtracked at this point. All right, let's go to bad. Speaking of terrible opinions, let's go to bad.
Hey.
All right,
That was for you,
Aaron,
Bobby.
you started this with the only good thing was the humor. So what is some of the stuff that fell short?
Oh boy.
My biggest gripe?
Yeah.
Why did Hela have to be such a one-dimensional villain? Completely cardboard cutout.
Can I answer that?
Sure.
Because she had nothing to work with, and she said, like, this is the best I can do.
I'm
It's
not
her fault.
I'm
It's
not
the way
trying to
it's
say Kate Blanchett's to blame. I'm saying
was
that
great.
Sure.
there's no character motivation there. It's just like, I'm back and I'm bad.
She just kind of showed up, had a obvious world
If you my pretty.
universe conquering mindset, and killed some people because she has invincibility, basically,
And spikes.
for most of the
Lots of
time
spikes.
through spikes, which were like antler shards shooting at people.
She's a cool.
But then she also, like a third of the way through the movie, she stops being menacing, becomes a humor character for most of the rest of the movie, and is also barely in it.
Yeah.
And then shows up at the very end, having like, I'm gonna take over the world, although I don't really know what I'm gonna take over at the like she's just there, and then they fight her, and that's it. That's everything.
Yeah, I think it was a missed opportunity. I think here's the problem with Marvel movies.
Yeah,
for me.
we talked about that. We've talked about this every single time.
Single Marvel movie.
Every single
You know,
one.
I really think the best was the Vulture so far. You know, like maybe.
And I had that was one of my biggest problems was the Vulture, not because of the performance or anything, but like they just cannot. They can't
And I think they're
get
saving-
everything in
I think
sync.
they're saving it for Thanos. I think they're saving it for Thanos.
I don't
There's
think
another
so.
mustache twirler.
I think they just suck at it
I think they suck, and that's sad. They are
because they give everything to the heroes. That's what they.
And like it's like villain of the week.
Yeah.
Villain of the week.
Right.
And she was another villain of the week.
That's exactly
fucking
it.
Care about.
You're right.
This week, the Avengers fight expired milk.
Here's the problem with the Avengers.
Like Scooby, she's got shards. Let's kill her.
Here's the
Okay,
problem
gone.
with Marvel
like,
Cinematic Universe. Here's the problem with Marvel
Yeah.
Cinematic Universe. And here's the problem with it as a superhero movie. What makes to me, and I think this is what it's lacking. Of course, I mean they're multi-billion-dollar.
yeah, I mean,
machine. What do I know?
huge,
I don't know.
huge box office.
Obviously, but I know storytelling. I know what gravitates me to, especially a movie about heroes and villains, is the villains. I think the villains are the most important part to me in any superhero movie, any hero movie. Who do we remember in Star Wars the most? Darth Vader.
Well, I would argue it's the villain, but also the threat of consequence.
Thank
and I
you.
feel like
Stakes.
that is
Yes.
the having stakes. This movie,
That was your biggest complaint about it too, Aaron. Was
Yeah.
like there was no it was like this is a fun movie.
It's
Go ahead.
fun,
Go ahead,
but
Aaron.
there's
Aaron.
no stakes whatsoever.
right?
At all.
Exactly.
Even in how the climax is delivered, with Ragnarok actually happening. Like, oh, this
I've
was
got a
supposed to
Ragnarok.
happen.
Absolutely.
Right.
You're right.
So, and
There's no danger.
what's also
there's no real weight and gravity.
There's
There's no gravity to it, and that was my problem with the Force Awakens. There's no gravity.
well,
to the danger.
we'll get to that.
We
We'll do
will.
that sometime.
But I'm saying there's got to be gravity to the weight of danger.
Not to spoil my
No Marvel movie has it.
not to spoil my ugly, but we're talking about the villain as Hela. But in addition to like adding no stakes, is the idea. So like, not only is the villain kind of like, yeah, they'll defeat her at some point. She's nothing really. Like, yeah, we show her mowing down a bunch of people and gets a zombie army and okay, whatever. It's just more like we need to generate disposable, non-human minions for our heroes to kill. Like that is the thing. Like they don't want to show them actually killing real people because that ethically and morally is like oh my God, they're like if those were like human villains. Like like Batman. Like we'll get to this next week, I think. But like, if it was like, think about the difference between Batman, the third Batman, where it's just like a horde of angry people, like human beings. That he's like,
hold on, we're talking about The Dark Knight Rises.
Rises, yeah.
Okay, all right.
And he just
That
like
old
beats them
chestnut.
up. He beats up these real people versus every. Marvel movie is like it's robots or zombies or minions.
Yeah.
Like if you beat up an alien, nobody gives a shit because it's like, okay, it's an alien. Like I don't. It's like beating up a carnivorous monster.
know
Like,
what's
who
like
gives a
that?
shit?
I
Like,
just meant-
there's no ethics to it.
Well, it's like the foot soldiers in the Ninja Turtles cartoon. They're
Right,
robots.
exactly. They're disposable minions.
Disposable.
Like, we don't feel bad that they... Like, we don't feel
There's no
their
way
inner
that they can
monologue.
do it. They're not Nazi soldiers,
Right.
Who have like inner monologue and shit. Like,
But then if you add on the fact that, like, there's no stakes whatsoever with the villain, they even made it worse by making... Not only is the Hulk, like, we have no weakness for the Hulk at this point. We still don't know, like,
Well,
what stops the Hulk.
that's the comic.
I know, but, like, they should add in...
Kryptonite.
Well,
Finally.
two things. So with the Hulk specifically, he's at a point of invincibility, but like his biggest weakness is the fact that he's this dual personality, and Banner is kind of conflicted. And even in this movie, they hint at the idea that like, oh, he's been the Hulk for 2 years, and he's supposed to have this like PTSD and like trauma to the fact that like, oh my god, he took over for 2 years. Oh my god, like that. They said like his first
laugh
scene.
it off.
Mark Ruffalo's first scene. Not only do they laugh it off, but they immediately he's like, yeah, I'll be the Hulk again. Why not? Sure.
whatever.
Like it's just non-consequential. But then Thor also. So this movie, one of the good things about it was that like they were doing that Iron Man thing where it's like if you don't have your suit, what are you? Like if he doesn't have his hammer, what is Thor? But even before he loses his hammer, he gets this new lightning power. And even when he loses his hammer for the movie and Hela destroys it, he's still like he's invincible. Like what is stopping
There's no
him?
consequence.
There's nothing. There's no consequence
the
to
Hulk
anything.
body slams him.
Our heroes are invincible. The villain will be stopped no matter what. And this movie did nothing to like even pretend like there were stakes.
Well, you know, and I think this is where we give credit where credit is due. I know we bash.
Credit to what?
Well, I'm telling you.
He's
Okay,
getting there.
all right.
I'm getting there.
I'm all
Well, I know
fired
we
up.
bash,
I'm just like,
I know we bash the DC
credit to this.
Well,
Go
I know we
ahead.
bash the DC universe, but in the first Superman Man of Steel movie, even Zod, a god, broken his neck could be broken.
They at least made an effort.
There's
He's dead.
There's still immortality
dead.
to Superman, and there's still immortality to him when they're facing godlike creatures.
They
Right.
can actually die.
And Superman
There's a
technically
threat.
died in the last movie.
Yeah.
But we all know he's not
Yeah,
really dead.
obviously. Yeah.
But I'm saying there's still a little bit of a threat, even though Superman. That was one of the biggest problems about Superman. So I think with Marvel, it's like
Who
every,
cares?
Well, it's like every J.J. Abrams movie. There's no weight to the danger. I know,
There
no
is
danger.
one Marvel movie where I felt there were stakes, and I felt like the main character could actually die.
What?
Iron Man.
Iron Man. Thank you.
That's one of
It was the closest they got.
Yeah.
You're right. I did like Captain America. I'm a
Which one?
The first one. I'm the only.
I
only-
hate
I like that movie too.
I'm the only person who
I
likes
hated that
movie.
one.
I'm with you too.
I'm the only person who likes that movie.
I just said I like it.
And Red Skull was actually a good.
He's
villain.
the only one, Aaron. You didn't like it.
Red
Only
Skull was actually
Ben.
a cool villain that they kind of throw away too. I wonder if he's still alive too because he
Everyone's
gets
still
sucked
alive.
to Tesseract.
Everyone is still alive. That's what's gonna. We'll get to that.
No
Actually,
one
I
in the
have a
Marvel
whole point
universe has
about.
died.
I have a whole point about that. What did you guys think of Tess something? She was the Valkyrie.
Throwaway.
I'm
So every
I'm
review
disappointed I don't know her name.
I saw so far loves her and stuff and think, oh, she's in Westworld. She's really great. And this and that. It's like, she's all right.
I didn't care at all for
She
her
was
character.
drunk. She's the Thor, Thor, basically.
But she was drunk for what purpose? Like because everybody got
she's
killed.
An Asgardian.
Because she's an Asgardian and everyone else got killed and
She likes. The
she
next
couldn't
drinks.
go
He likes
back.
the beer.
Yeah, it just was.
Yeah.
She's a strong, independent woman who don't need no man.
Okay, so she's a Valkyrie, right?
yeah.
One of the coolest imageries of the whole movie.
Oh yeah, for sure.
When
Yeah.
you see on the preview, and you see, and this is not spoiling it for anybody except for when I spoil it.
It's exactly what was in the preview, but
Exactly.
maybe like an
But
extended
it was
sequence.
a flashback. I was like, fuck, what a waste.
No dialogue. No, it was
like,
just a
this is-
sequence of slow
It was
motion.
like Flash Gordon, like on crack.
It was Zack. It was Zack
Oh.
Snyder. It was Zack
It
Snyder.
was beautiful.
That
but
was like the only shot in the movie I actually liked.
Yeah.
It was thrown away. It was thrown away. Like, oh.
The whole movie needed to
But
be
if
like
that
that.
was the movie-
Yeah.
There was some real stylization going on there.
That's-
Because it was a real battle, like
It
that.
was-
It's sort of like The Hobbit, where it's like you reading the book The Hobbit, and you get to like the last page, and it's like And then there was this great war, and everyone fought in an epic battle. And then this happened, and this is the outcome. And now we're going to move on.
And some guy
like
wrote a bore.
that, like 1 or 2 paragraph page was like this epic showdown between the Valkyries and this
Hela.
and Hela, the goddess of death.
On her wolf.
It was just like, oh yeah, this thing happened, and here's kind of what it looked like, and it's over, and we lost.
Hour runtime.
Done.
Cool. Okay, let me tell you something would work with Hela. And that freaking cool wolf that they didn't use.
Yeah, the fucking wolf. Why? The wolf was the coolest thing.
It was. So, like, when they wanted Carl Urban to execute that person, how creepy and disturbing it would have been if the wolf would have ate him.
You're preaching to the choir with me and the wolf.
And you know what did it well? You know what did that sequence well? They copied it. Was of Game of Thrones with the dragon.
Yeah.
Like, that was, I thought, was the sequence. He's this big old wolf.
He can't do it. Whomp.
Yeah. That would have been...
That would have been amazing.
Like, fuck.
And also...
But they didn't do it.
And they also
somebody died.
They also didn't utilize the wolf. Idris Elba showdown. Well, they didn't utilize the wolf at all. But, like, so many things could have happened. So they get to the Rainbow Bridge. They're trapped. The Asgardians are trapped on the bridge.
Coming down the corner
with the blue shell.
Yeah, and he's going to jump. He's going to make the jump. Oh! He found the secret. So somehow the wolf has gotten to the other side, and so they're trapped between the wolf and the army of the undead and Hela. But the wolf is there. Idris Elba, who did a pretty good job, I thought.
Yes,
he shows up with his giant sword, and he's like, "I got to protect all these people."
Which is the Bifrost sword.
Right, and the wolf is there, and you think like it's gonna be this awesome showdown with Idris Elba going out and he's gonna kill the wolf, but like be killed or something.
He was Peter.
But then, like before they even show down, the Hulk flies in. He's jumping. Bruce Banner jumps from the ship. He's like, "I'm gonna stop him.
I'll show you.
I'll show you. I'm gonna turn into the Hulk." Like the implicate, and then he like, not only does he, not only do they make the fight between the Hulk and the wolf like this dumb fight in the water that's just whatever.
It was B-roll.
They don't use him to ride the wolf, which I thought was like a no-brainer. Like he's like beating the wolf and riding him for whatever reason. But they undercut the whole thing. This is my biggest problem. Well, this is the whole Guardians versus... This is my lead into the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 versus this movie. Is that you think it's going to be this big showdown, and they undercut it with this... He just splats on the bridge as Banner. He jumps... But comedy... Yeah, exactly. And it's just like... We get it. It's a funny movie. You've been leading to this epic fight, and then you do this.
I did chuckle.
Let me tell you something. That one shot is why it perfectly exemplifies my no stakes thing.
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
Bruce Banner is a normal person. And he falls from what? 200 feet and smacks onto the ground, and he doesn't die.
He's fine. Yeah.
No broken bones,
Nothing.
no cuts.
Yeah, but that's like in every incarnation of the Hulk.
I don't care.
It's fine, but what they should have done is led into like a badass finale. He's Bruce Banner.
Bruce Banner.
Yeah, winner.
Bruce.
Winner. Winner. Yeah, so I guess I'm more. I don't even care so much that he got up and kept fighting. It was more that they didn't make it as badass and cool as they could have.
Anticlimactic.
Yeah, right.
Very much so.
Anyway.
No, I agree with you there too. I thought. Okay, so here's another bad. I'm going to talk about another bad. And I know, like, oh, it's so cool that he's in the universe. Doctor fucking Strange.
Oh yeah, that was terrible.
That was worse than Justice League product placement.
Terrible.
Like,
why was he there? Why did he pad the movie?
There was no necessary. It wasn't necessary.
I thought it was more necessary to see the videos of Aquaman on Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
Well, they made him like this ultra serious. So this gets back to the fact that they rebooted. We got to acknowledge the fact that they rebooted the entire character who's appeared in 4 or 5 movies before this. Like, this is a completely different character based on zero continuous character arc across movies.
You know, I think
like it's basically Chris Pratt mix Chris. It's basically if you mix Chris Pratt's character in Guardians of the Galaxy, Star-Lord, with Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy, and mix those two into one character.
Can I be its advocate right now? And the reason I'm being its advocate right now is because I agree with you. It's a copy off of I felt this movie was like, well, let's take what Guardians did and the success of that and make our own movie with it with Thor. I do think the character of Thor is kind of like brooding and blah 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 blah, and kind of like the fish out of water thing's done. How can we still make him funny without being serious? I do think he's a more interesting character, being more humorous. He's more dynamic.
Yeah.
He
couldn't have carried the movie otherwise.
No, I don't think so. I also listened to an interview with Chris Hemsworth, and he was saying like he wanted to take a different direction with this.
Yeah, because they effed it up at the start.
He was right, and I think this is the best Thor movie by far. And it's amazing like how I watched a thing about these Hemsworth, and they get like. All three of them get work. It's like that's really rare in Hollywood. And
the triple hem.
Other than the Skarsgårds.
You're right. Now the Hemsworth.
Versus Skarsgård.
Well, the thing about those Hemsworths.
Death battle.
Their pants are perfectly trimmed.
They're worth their hems.
They're worth a lot.
Oh! Nailed it.
Let me just.
They walk around normally.
There you go.
Yeah, nailed it.
Perfect.
I wrote that 3 weeks.
So, yeah. You were just contemplating the Hemsworths.
You were sitting in your theater chair.
Oh, Jesus. So I need to make a Hemsworth joke in a couple weeks. What did you think of, just fire off, what did you think of Scourge?
Who's Scourge?
He was the bald guy, I can't remember his name
Carl
now.
Urban?
Carl Urban, yeah.
Wasted potential.
I thought he was the most dynamic character in the whole thing. I thought he
has
the
an
biggest
arc.
character arc, but who gives a shit?
If he had the biggest arc, then I'm going to be like, I was about to say, like, are you kidding me?
No.
So, like.
No, but he's right.
Yeah.
I'm right. Like,
yeah. You actually kind of are.
He has the biggest arc of any character, but
in any Marvel movie.
Who fucking cares?
Ever.
It's not important.
What did you think of the fact that Hela could be defeated by the fire monster?
That Thor defeated
But it was also that Thor defeated at the beginning, but it was also obvious that even when he was like unleashed his full potential as fire monster, that there was a threat that Hulk would beat his ass. So it's like Hulk can beat Fire Monster can beat Hela. Why do you need Fire Monster? Send Hulk in.
Thor can beat Hulk.
Yeah, what's the point? Like just
and he just got true potential. No, I think what okay, so I'm gonna talk about that, man. I think with that situation, I don't think Hulk could beat him. I think the Fire Monster could destroy. I don't know if the Fire Monster can destroy Hela, but he could destroy Asgard.
That's all he was trying to do, yeah.
And I think that was the whole point. And also, we know that I'm going to say this, he didn't kill her.
Yeah, sure.
You know.
The last thing
that made me mad.
Before what did?
Asgard's gone by everybody.
Yeah, it's gone. No, what made me mad is that this thing that Thor handles easily in the beginning of the movie is actually what Ragnarok is supposed to happen, guys.
It was Ragnarok,
Didn't you
guys.
listen to
Remember
Anthony Hopkins when he was dropping those cryptic hints? By the way, that's more no stakes.
You know what's
this
funny?
was supposed to happen.
Do you know what's funny? Anthony Hopkins played a Rothgard in
Rothgar, yeah.
In Beowulf.
Yes.
And he mentions the god Thor, or the god Odin.
Yeah.
Because he praised Odin because he's a Viking, right?
It was like
little bit he knows
Zemeckis
that
knew.
He is Odin.
Zemeckis.
Yeah.
I like that movie.
I do too. I don't mind it.
The last bad I had was more about and I've got more too when we get to Ugly. I've been saving Ugly the whole time. Is more like the two overall like here's our hero theme for this movie, which
What
was
theme?
one was like, oh, Thor is hammerless, but he's still a hero because of that. Well, it's kind of it's less about him being a hero because of all the comedy and stuff, but like, oh, he loses his hammer but gains something maybe even more powerful in his lightning ability.
feather.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, lose one thing, gain something even better. But the other thing was that like
bigger penis.
well, Asgard
I'm Thor, bitches.
I'm Thor inches. Oh. The other thing was that
3 inches.
supposedly Asgard is just a place, but it's really people. Like
We've been fighting to defend Asgard for 3 movies. But by the way, it doesn't matter.
Asgard is it's not a place. It's all these people, whatever.
Asgard is church.
Well, Hela showed up on the planet in here, and she got all her powers. So really, it was the place. It really was the land that gave her the powers.
The power from
It wasn't the people there.
So here's a question. Now that you provoked a question from me.
Yeah.
If she gets all the powers from Asgard, where does Thor get his powers?
It
From
doesn't matter.
places.
That's too much logic.
It's kind of like Ego. Ego's planet, like gets his power from the planet. Like, where does he get his power? Like, yeah, it's interesting.
It's some random bullshit that lets them do some.
J.J. Abrams writing, everybody. J.J. Abrams writing.
Lets them do this heartwarming finale that she abuses the resources available to her and blah blah. She sucks the planet dry while everyone else gets their power from people and humanity and kindness and friendship, whatever. I thought that was really weak. I thought that was extremely weak.
Yeah.
But not as weak as the Ugly.
Why did you put him as the Ugly?
I don't know. I think when I did this, I was just pulling the images, and I thought
I was mad at Jeff Goldblum.
The whole gladiator thing was very like it didn't matter.
I guess when it turns to fly, he's pretty ugly.
Yes,
you're right. The gladiator.
Nothing about Jeff Goldblum. The whole Jeff Goldblum trash planet really mattered.
But how cool of it if it did. It would be 100% better if it did matter, where they did have a really detailed uprising of these characters and stuff.
Yeah, this whole revolution was like a 2-minute thing.
It's cool. Civil War. It's just like Civil War again. It's just an excuse to have our big characters fight each other in like an interesting way, and that was it. Like just an excuse.
But here's another bad about it, Matt and Aaron.
You mean an ugly?
Or an ugly.
Ugly or bad?
Ugly.
Okay.
Well, you're Hela, right? You have this cool situation of where, like, Thor is in this predicament, in this planet, because he got sucked in there. You know that your greatest threat is Thor, right? She kind of ignored Thor. Like, she didn't care about him. Wouldn't you have someone sent out for him to try to find him? I mean, wouldn't that be a subplot? Also,
everything about Hela was terrible. It was just she just is there and she's evil. Guys, get it?
Also,
that's it.
And I get
cut away.
Also, I think this is because of the way it was. Like every black hole leads to this planet for some reason. But wasn't it convenient that the Hulk and Loki were all on this planet?
That is the only thing. Like I noticed that right away, but I was like, you know what? I can forgive that in a cartoon, which is what this is.
Like the Hulk's here, like out of all the galaxies, of all the gin
it's
joints,
a big place out there.
I see you here, kid.
It's astronomical.
In the galaxy. You had to show up my gin joint.
Didn't they Didn't they actually address that in the movie in a very nonchalant way? It was like, "Hey, how'd you get here?"
Yeah.
I felt insulted as an audience member.
I felt like Humphrey Bogart in Casablanca.
There you go.
So
no, that's the script writers. Frankly, my dear, we didn't give a damn.
Play again, Sam.
Frankly, my dear, it was all about the jokes. All about them likes.
That was not. That's Gone with the Wind, you idiot.
I'm just saying movie lines.
Click your button.
Wow.
Thank you.
So, Aaron, what's an ugly for you?
I would have to say, here, I'm going to do a little bit of a reach on this one, because I've already said everything I don't really like.
Mm-hmm.
The ugly is that this sort of mediocre trash pile, it's not a trash pile, this sort of mediocre thing is what makes $1 billion now. And
but it's better than Michael Bay.
It's not better than The Rock. I would rather watch The Rock.
Like the movie The Rock?
The Rock. That's a good Michael Bay movie.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
But that's 1990s.
So what? It's still a movie.
Keep going.
So you have an overall problem more so that something like this
cow is just churning out these cookie cutter Mad Libs movies, and I don't care anymore. It was novel for the first couple of years, but there's no stakes. They're taking forever to get to the part where there might be stakes.
I'm with you. I want some filet mignon. That's what I want, right?
It's fillet mignon.
Oh, excuse me.
Get it right.
It's like if
I thought French.
next week or the week after, if Justice League is no good, I might just quit superhero movies forever.
You can't.
Quit it.
We need you for the pod.
Quit it.
Oh.
We gotta watch this stuff. We'll do what we'll
Gotta get them likes.
we'll do like
Get them live.
what's the movie? What's the Stanley Kubrick movie? Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
And we'll open your eyes up and like make you watch them.
I'll be like,
Yeah.
So
I love it.
So my overall ugly kind of goes in tandem with what Aaron said, because this
This
movie,
is acceptable now.
in terms of Rotten Tomatoes, this movie is ranked number 2 overall of all Marvel movies,
What's number 1?
which is stunning. Iron Man, actually.
I agree with that decision.
That one's not that super controversial.
No.
That one should be in the top 3, but I would argue this one is probably
8th.
maybe top 10.
I think it's 5th.
Yeah.
Well, wait. So Guardians,
we can go through the ranking.
Galaxy 2, Guardians for me.
Avengers for me.
No, I
No,
don't like
think it's-
Avengers.
I think it's
Those 3.
Avengers was fluff.
Yeah. It started. Anyway, so while Aaron is saying that this is like more of the same, I actually would say that once they got to Guardians, the first Guardians movie, it changed. They started to change the formula because they realized people liked
humor.
the humor, the lightheartedness, and like that side of it, that it was really fun. And so now they have done this new formula. It's a new formula. Ever since even Ant-Man, Doctor Strange was kind of like testing those out. But like the 3 movies we've done this year, Guardians 2, Spider-Man, this one, are all building to this new formula of like, there's no consequences, it's just really fun, it's really lighthearted, and there's a lot of jokes. And there's still like action behind it.
Keep buying tickets, damn it.
That's the new formula to me. And this is the peak version of that, where there is literally no consequences, literally all jokes. There's like not one serious, heartfelt moment, not one serious moment.
I guess with him and Odin was a serious moment.
I would argue
that was a complete ass pull.
exactly. I would argue none of that mattered. Like nothing. It was just
But it
like
was nice
thrown in.
house that worked out.
Yeah.
But like, so if we're gonna contrast,
By
this,
the way, my son, I'm not going to help you. You have to do this yourself. Bye.
yeah, if you're gonna
Championships must be won on the road.
if you're gonna contrast this movie to, this is why I'm so frustrated that people are shitting on Guardians 2,
Exactly.
is that this movie like tried to wedge in this whole family issue, this whole family dynamic of Loki and a new sister in the mix, and their dad's dying, and we don't even know what happened to her mom. We don't even like. There's no mention of their mother at any point.
Well, she passed away in the last movie, but
Right.
I don't know if the same mother.
But either way, like you would think that would like this movie is ripe for a family thing, but Guardians 2 did it like in an infinitely better way. That even though they had a bunch of jokes, they still did a lot of character development.
I felt something for the characters. in that
Right,
movie.
not just within that movie,
Not
but
a
over
lot, but some.
over the course of both movies, they get to this point of like parenting and fathers and how they care for each other despite losses and like all these other elements
And
that
I agree with you, Matt. I agree with you 100%. Matt. And I think it's interesting that I've seen a lot of reviews that say the opposite.
Yeah, it's
And,
great.
No, I think this is where we're agreement on.
Yeah.
Where I think even though Guardians is a funnier movie, even though this Thor is pretty funny, Guardians there was more jokes per like minute. I think Guardians had more character development. And I think
10 times
more
more.
character arcs, and actually had more heart to it.
Guardians, I
And
think,
more consequences.
not just
Because
both.
Earth was in danger. Every place was in danger. There was more consequences.
Again, it was in danger.
There was the sisters that like there's. It's not just both movies, but like if you're comparing Guardians 2 to this one to Thor 3,
Guardians superior.
like every single thing Thor was trying to do, I feel like Guardians did better. But that's kind of beside. Like if you talk about Odin specifically. In this movie, they didn't just undercut everything with jokes. They undercut everything with their attempt to like raise the stakes for their villain. And in doing so for Hela, we revealed either again or just like for the first time, like just a refresher that Odin is actually a shithead. Like the reason Asgard exists is because he just massacred civilizations and conquered everything. Like that was the whole point of her character was that.
It's true, but he did have a change of heart.
That's fine, but like within this movie, we see he's a good guy, and we're supposed to remember from 2 movies back from across a decade's worth of time, like these stories. But then within this movie, we reveal that, like, oh yeah, he did those terrible things. Like in the real world, this is getting to my overall point. In the real world, if you do something that like unconscionable, like that terrible, but even if you have a change of heart, yeah, you can rehabilitate yourself. But like there is a fucking threshold. Like it's just like it's the same thing with Loki. Like, if Thor 3 was the first movie in the series, this would be one of the best, I would think, in the Marvel universe. But because it's a reboot of everything, and because it's the third in the series, we've had familiarity with all these characters. And to see, like, Thor and all these characters doing these, like, giggly, lighthearted jokes the whole time, like, the sister appears out of nowhere. And you think this is some family thing, and she's kind of joking about like, oh yeah, we should conquer all these worlds and massacre all these people. And Loki, who just appeared, and all of a sudden Loki's a good guy now, even though he's
coward.
At every single step of the way, he's tried to conquer the world. Like we had a whole thread in Spider-Man about how the devastation of New York has trickled down and has continued ever since. That there's this, and that's all because of Loki. And then we get this Thor goofy romp where Loki's all of a sudden a good guy, and there's not one scene where we see that he has like transformed himself. Like there's not one. Again, there's no consequence. There's no weight to anything where we see that like Thor has had this revelation to become a better person, but like this movie just wants to tell us like through jokes and comedy that like everybody's a good guy now and everything's great.
Can I make one piggyback point where you're talking about Loki not really changing, and he really hasn't probably. One scene that makes sense now is the end credit scene. So we see the end credit scenes. They're all on the ship in Asgard. This is from my friend Colin. Or if you're watching, my dear friend, this is for you. That. You know, the end credits, the mid credit scene. There's this huge giant ship that intersects everybody from Asgard on the ship that they escaped Asgard from, and they're all looking at it like, what the heck is this ship? So from my deductive reasoning and Colin's deductive reasoning, that ship is Thanos' ship, and he believes that because at the very end, Loki put the skull that the monster guy into the eternal flame of Asgard to make him giant. He took a glance at the Tesseract, which is the same thing.
That's right, he did.
Captain America.
I forgot about that.
We assume that he took the Tesseract, and I just want to make this not how bad it is, but like just in general, that's one of the Infinity Stones, right?
Is it?
Yeah, it is. It's
Why not? Who gives a shit?
And I think
they don't explain anything.
No,
it's just there's stones.
No,
Who cares?
It is. And Thanos detected that, and that's why that big ship came upon them.
Okay,
that's really good.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I mean that all of this is which is good that you brought it up. Is that Thanos is the end game for Marvel?
Yes.
Infinity Wars is the end game.
Someone's got to die.
Somebody.
The fact that you were saying that. Like, we all agree. Like, they are building to that. They're ramping up to the fact of, like, serious consequences. There will be characters who are going to die.
Main characters.
The villain is the most dangerous we have ever seen and could possibly imagine, which will ultimately... They'll have to demonstrate that with,
he could really almost destroy Earth.
Absolute devastation.
Right.
The annihilation of entire species. Like, you know, there's so much... pain and death and serious darkness that has to be associated with this ramp up to this villain. And yeah, we've talked about that they do a shitty job with villains. But this all goes back to this new formula, and especially Thor. It's like everything is so lighthearted and goofy and funny. Like, how do you... Like, we're taking these, like, Loki is a serious villain, and we're just supposed to accept him back into the fold. And then, like, and everything else is like, we're the superheroes, and nothing's serious, and we don't care. And oh yeah, we'll handle that because everything's a joke, and we'll kill the monster and kill the villain. And then we get. Like, how are you supposed to reconcile that when you get to Infinity Wars when there's no consequences, there's no weight to anything leading up to this? Like, are they
like Infinity Bores? Am I right?
Right? Are they going to make it like? Are they going to undercut their own movie by making movies so fun and lighthearted that like, oh yeah, who cares? Like, we're going to make 3 movies. Like, oh yeah, we're just going to resurrect old villains and they'll dispatch them and nothing will happen.
Just like the comics.
Or is it going to be just such a jarring, like, difference when they get to that it's like, oh yeah, Captain America died, like, well, like it's so out of character.
Jarring thing.
They just cannot tonally align anything.
I'm going to defend it right now. I'm going to defend it, and
I might do it right after you.
Statement. No, keep that in mind. That shit's going to hit the fan with Thanos.
Yeah.
They said, you know what? Let's have one more lighthearted movie where this shit is like, let's make everybody happy. Have a moment until it get real dark. And I think that's not a bad choice.
Like, yeah, it's that is almost an arc.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's an arc at all. Actually, well, I think it undercuts what they would ultimately do. Is that our heroes don't take threats serious? I mean,
but maybe that's the arc, because here's my thought about the next movie, the Avengers movie, before the Avengers, the second version of Infinity Wars. So it's gonna hit the fan. They don't take it seriously, and then somebody dies, or like Thanos wins. It's gonna be Empire Strikes Back ending of things until the second one, where they defeat Thanos, or the third one. I don't know how many they're doing, but
I think it's on 7. I think it's 3.
Yeah,
I don't know, 2 or 3.
But I'm thinking there's gonna be like struggle. And that's going to be the revelation of those.
Yeah, but you know who they're going to kill off? It's probably going to be somebody like Ant-Man.
Iron Man. Nope. I think they're going to kill off Iron Man. I feel it.
Yeah, they're really tired of paying.
I'm just disappointed that we have now been 3 or 4 movies in. Like it, I kind of get it with. I get it with Spider-Man. I get it with some of these others, and others have been more successful at getting, like, digging a little bit deeper than superficial fun and like music and whatever, to get at more serious things. But like, I'm concerned about the trajectory of everything's kind of fun, or like, so the next time we see Thor, is he going to be all goofy and funny?
I think so. I think they'll,
because like, what does that mean? Like, is Ant-Man gonna? Because we've got Ant-Man, we've got Spider-Man, we've got like 15 characters now who are just primarily goofy characters.
Well, and
then we're gonna all of a sudden throw the universe into chaos. Like, how do you?
Here's the deal. I think they're gonna integrate that, and then they're gonna balance it, and then they have to. And I think that's what. And I think as an audience member, I think you have to. And I actually think, even though I'm not a fan, like I'm not a fan of the Marvel. It's like, come on, give me something new. I'm like kind of tired of superhero movies that are not like, they're all contingent on each other. Like nothing can be a standalone. I think you have to do that. I think you have to have that humor a little bit in it to make it in the darkness.
Well,
I think it could work. I really do think it could work.
I think this just reveals that they made a long-term plan to, like, we're going to do Infinity Wars in 15, 20 years, whatever it was. We'll get to it at that point. We're going to fill in the pieces with all this stuff. We got to do this movie, whatever. Yeah. These are the token ones. But we'll fill in the pieces with a Thor movie or whatever movie. And so now that they're getting close to starting the real finale to everything, they're like, well, we should do another Thor movie. And you know what? We just need to make some money. It's not going to have any relevance to anything else. We'll just make it really fun because we need to sell some tickets and we want to make it really good in itself. But like, the problem with that is that you set up so much for Marvel Cinematic Universe, and you even set up so much for that character before now, that it just is like, yeah, maybe in isolation that's really good, but it doesn't fit. You made such a big deal about it, this universe fitting together, and now this movie is all of a sudden like a reboot of a million other things.
And here to argue your point and also to agree with your point. I'll start with agreeing with your point. even in the movie itself, like when Ragnarok or when Asgard gets destroyed, they downplay with the joke from the rock guy.
Yeah.
But and
Their home is destroyed.
Yeah,
Their entire planet is destroyed.
Yeah, and there's no weight to it. It's
No.
not like Alderaan being blown up.
Right.
To your point exactly with that. It's like, oh, whatever. It's not Earth. And no one was on it. Like that's all the people from Asgard. And I agree.
That's right.
Yeah.
They all fit on one ship.
It is. What's a flat planet?
It was a big ship.
But I agree with you there. To your point, though, I think this is where the character arc begins. Maybe they'll set up this humorous shit. Now, shit's happened with Captain America and Tony Stark, where like they're on the outs. There's some serious shit. And Thor is kind of like Thor wasn't there in Captain America: Civil War. Like he wasn't there. So I think he's the only one. I think it makes probably for this particular character it makes sense, but for those characters they still have something to deal with. There's some seriousness with their universe, with their collective minds, and what they're facing with. Like Captain America and Captain America are not talking to each other. Like Captain America is a criminal of the United States, So there's that going on. Where Thor wasn't even involved with that, and I think it kind of sets up for his particular character to even though he did something which is not really much of an arc, I don't think, in this movie, he's still not taking things seriously. You know what I mean? And I think maybe, and I could be completely wrong, I think you're probably right in this situation, maybe his demeanor is going to play through for the next one, where it's like, shit's going to hit the fan. But who knows? There's a funny preview with him and the Guardians when they meet up with each other.
Yeah, it's because they're clearly aligned. They're probably seeing that we need to incorporate the Guardian stuff more into this universe, and so we'll make the connective tissue Thor, and because he's alien or he's got his own world.
Yeah.
So, all right. Any other uglies?
Aaron's face.
Aaron.
I'm sorry, it's pretty.
Nothing.
I got no more uglies.
Okay.
Play some other
Play
the back.
So,
yeah, okay. There.
All right, that's the end.
Yeah, real quick, real quick.
You're losing me.
What would you guys recommend this movie?
I would. For just pure popcorn fun.
Yeah, it's a popcorn flick.
It's fun. If you want some laughs, it's fun.
If you want to turn your brain off and enjoy some jokes, it's not a bad
fun.
movie.
It's fun.
Yep.
I would. Why not?
Yep. I agree.
The money.
It's worth seeing for
Be sure to go see it in
was
3D
fun.
for
I laughed,
extra money
like you said, I
goodness.
laughed the whole time. But, maybe watch this one more time. That's it. Probably for me.
I think I'm good.
Yeah, as funny as it was, I will say I don't remember, other than the one scene I wrote down, I don't remember any jokes. I don't remember anything particular. Yeah, I know you remember that. I didn't think that was that. Yeah,
It was funny.
You suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just because you have no sense of humor.
I just hate everything. Everything should be serious.
I hate Trump.
Should get the mask out.
It's up on the wall there. So,
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's definitely worth seeing. It's one of the better ones, and
Yeah, you're right.
I actually do really. It's not that the new formula is bad. It's not that like all these the comedy and even the visuals they're doing and some of the stuff they're doing with the characters is like necessarily terrible. It's more just like at a macro level, and the fact that they are rebooting a character that's been around for so long, like it really is a reboot.
Right.
Like it's totally different.
And I think you're also mad at the fact that it's a formula. Just the fact
Yeah.
that it's a freaking formula.
And also that Guardians of the Galaxy isn't given its due. Critically, it's infuriating to me.
People are pissing on this
Yeah.
movie, and I'm with you. I think this is all a consensus here. I'm with you 100%. People are shitting on Guardians, saying this is a better movie than Guardians 2, and I think Guardians 2 is the best Marvel movie. Go see it. I'll see it again.
You should go watch the movie and then watch our podcast, because we were saying that like the day after it came out.
Absolutely,
too.
and I'll watch it again.
So
before we finish, I'd like to iron down my opinion of this movie. I don't
Jeff
hate
Goldblum.
fun. I love fun. I just expect more out of a multi-billion-dollar operation. That's all.
Yeah, but people don't care.
I care.
I know you care.
expect more in like what regard?
Story.
Like story, yeah,
Character
story wise.
You're right. It should be better written.
Even their visual effects are pretty lacking these days.
In parts, I agree with you. Like the gladiator scene looked like a flash.
I thought what they
It
did
wasn't.
I thought the Hulk face, especially with his face graphics, because they kept him in Hulk form. Like it obviously wasn't motion capture. It was just all generated.
I just want
It was good,
them
though.
to do less
disagree.
effect shots
I
so
don't
that
think
the
so.
effect shots can look better.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
right.
I agree with you.
You're right.
Yeah.
Unless they had the budget of like the
$2 billion.
Well, it's true, but the best movie of the year, which has got no money, is in terms of special effects, is Blade Runner. Blade Runner. Go see that movie, please. That's a great
Yeah,
movie.
I
Yeah, but
can't
that
believe-
movie had a huge budget.
It did, but still,
Not this big.
Not
Not
this big.
Thor big. There's no way.
It was like
It was like 20 million.
no,
No, it was more.
It
than
was
that.
way
It
more than that.
Blade Runner.
What?
It was like
The second Blade Runner.
maybe I'm wrong, but I remember reading
But the
that it
IMAX
was
film
over
itself-
100 million.
The IMAX film, shooting on IMAX itself is expensive. That's
Yeah,
probably
I'm gonna shoot for over 100 million.
all right.
Well,
Let's
I
sing us
opened up
out.
the
I
wrong
think we
one.
should sing us out.
So-
I think we've gone a little bit longer.
yeah, we did.
Yeah.
So next week we've got we're gonna decide on who the best Batman movie actor is.
Actor.
Who's the
Actor.
best? Who is the best incarnation of Batman in film?
And we can talk
So-
about the movies themselves.
Yeah, we'll touch on all the movies. We'll
It's
touch
inevitable.
on across generations, everything.
And we're ramping up for the Justice League movie.
Yes.
Right, which will
Yes,
come
yes,
out the
yes.
following week. What is coming up on Game Sharks?
Well, Sonic Forces came out today or yesterday, so we got to play that.
Yes.
I am all over new Sonic games, man.
Me too.
I have no idea if it's good.
And you're trickling out Fester's Quest. Is that
Oh
what-
yeah.
this is 2 episodes.
We got one more episode of that.
just one more.
Yeah, it's a childhood.
We were gonna do a one-off, but Ben's like, "No, let's keep going."
Well, I thought I could beat it, and I didn't.
And you failed. Wow,
You
wow.
try to play it.
Yeah, it's hard.
So, all right. Well, thanks everybody. We've got a lot of superhero stuff coming up, so be sure to check out
I'm
and
so happy.
Please, we want
like,
to do this for a
subscribe,
living.
everything.
We want to do this for a living. No, we can't.
We want.
Give us money.
I'm gonna
All right.
play us off.
Until next time.
And here we go. Cue it.
Cue what?
Spark of the madness. Bye-bye. Spark.